Welcome, everyone. You're in for a treat today. Welcome, Mickie Kennedy, who is the founder and president of eReleases, the small business leader for press release distribution, now celebrating 20 years in business. Wow, congratulations. Mickie is an expert at helping small businesses increase their visibility and credibility, and he's here today to share some valuable insights. So, welcome, Mickie.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, how did you get into this business?
I had finished a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, I guess around 27 years ago, and I uh, ended up deciding that I didn't want to work full time waiting tables, which was my career plan at first. But after standing on your feet for 10, 12 hours at a time, I just realized that wasn't for me. I could do it part time, but full time, I just felt like I needed something different. So I transitioned to a safe office job in DC, working for a telecom research startup as employee number three. And because I had writing in my background, they said, "Hey, figure out press releases for us." And so I did. And the owner of the company, who was a telecom attorney, sort of showed me the ropes and what he had been doing, and said, "Don't expect much. It usually doesn't result in anything." And I just, had to then program a fax machine with 100 numbers because that was just the most that it had, but we had 150 journalists to send. So after I'd send the fax and program it, I'd have to delete those numbers and put another 50 in. And it was excruciating. And I just felt like if I'm going to do this, I want to have success. And so I made it my mission to figure out how to get press releases that journalists would respond to. And what I realized is what we had been sending them was basically just data dumps. Here is the telecom
Mhm.
traffic between the Caribbean countries and the US, inbound and outbound traffic. And it was just tables of data. And what I realized is journalists are looking for a story.
Mhm.
And I started to notice that, like in the Caribbean, for example, that um, there was a country that had more inbound and outbound traffic to the US than all the others combined, and it was one of the smallest countries. And so I explored that and discovered that that was the 1-900 number center, in which all the 1-900 numbers at the time, this was in the early 1990s, were being routed through there. And, for those that don't know, used to you could call a 1-900 number, you could get like your horoscope read, or you could get pet advice. Sometimes it'd be recorded. Those are usually cheaper by the minute, 50 cents a minute, 75 cents a minute. But if you wanted to speak to someone live, like an expert on pets or love or romance, it might be $1 or two a minute. And that was an interesting story. And when I sent that one out, that press release got picked up by the Financial Times, The Economist, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and three telecom trade magazines. And so I just felt like, wow, this is interesting. And so I
Mhm.
continued to send out story-based releases and continued to get picked up. And the rest is sort of history. I saw as I was faxing that more journalists would call and say, "Could you email this instead of faxing in the future?" And so I just made it my mission to get the email address of every journalist I could. I hung out in bulletin boards online where the journalists were at, and they willingly gave me their email address and thought this was a really cool concept. And so I was a matchmaker sending releases to journalists, and that I launched in October of 1998.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that something? That
It
is,
is.
you never know where you're gonna land sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. Wow. Increased visibility and credibility using the press release to promote. Now, I heard you talk about more of a storytelling type scenario, which people gravitate to now. We want to hear stories. We want to hear how you got where you are, what challenges you overcame, things like that. So why is that important?
I think it's because we naturally want stories. The people who tell the best jokes, not necessarily the joke is so great, but it's the story. They move us up into a climax and we
Mm-hmm.
have the payoff. Even as children, we delight and want to have good night stories. And so
Mm-hmm.
the story arc is as natural as, we being humans. It is how we tell stories and pass things along. And so it's only natural that if you look at journalists, even if it's a two or three paragraph story in a newspaper, they often like to follow a story arc where they lead up and take you
Mm-hmm.
someplace. And so it's the most natural way to communicate. And so it's not a surprise that if you give them the building blocks for a story,
Mm-hmm.
they will often run with it. The most common press release I get at eReleases is a product launch press release, and it's usually here's our new product. Here's a list of features. Usually they're just bullets, but they can be also incorporated in paragraphs. And here's a page to learn more or buy it. And that is not a lot to build a story on. And
Right.
so one of the things I tell people is go back. I'm sure that you had people beta test this. Create a use case study. Talk about someone who had a problem, ideally with numbers, and what the outcome was. So, if let's say it's a logistics software, and this was a company that was losing 7% a year,
Mm.
and we're not profitable as a startup, and they used your logistics software solution. And at the end of 120 days, they're already projected to make a net profit this year of 7%. That is a
Wow.
turnaround story. And
Yes.
then also have them give you a quote, like a quote talking about how easy it was to use the product or something about the product that would really, make it seem really positive.
Mm.
That a journalist can work with because not only are they saying, hey, here's a new product, but look at this company. They were like facing, as many people do, as a startup, uh, failure, and they might be one of the 67% that fail in this industry every 5 years. And so instead of that, they got a turnaround story. And here's a quote by how great this software was. And all of a sudden, here's a few features that it has and information on learning more about it. But we often come to PR greedy. We want to just promote, 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 but we're not looking at it through the lens of a journalist who is a gatekeeper, and they have to decide, is this content going to entertain or educate or ideally both my audience? And they have to be protective of that audience. And so they have to determine if this is going to rise to the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So reverse engineer your message so that you're accomplishing what you want. You're promoting your product, but you're also satisfying the journalist by giving them something that is going to delight and entertain them, which is a story.
Yes. Yes. People love stories. Now, how can you get regular local media coverage without spending a dime?
So when people approach us and ask about reaching local media, I tell them that they are the best people to get local media. If you think about it, there is probably less than 10 people in your local market who would write about you. Find out who they are. Look at your local paper. Who in the past has covered your industry? Get
Mhm.
that person's email address. And it's as easy as calling and asking or looking online to see if it's already available. These are not celebrities, they are members of the community, and they want to cover people in their community. So you can call and just say, hey, can I get so and so's email address? They might ask why, and just say, hey, I'm a local business and I have a really good story for them I'd want to share. And so they'll either give it to you or they'll route you through to that person and you can ask them directly. But they will give it to you. And sometimes if they're like, well, just pitch me now over the phone, I always say I'm a shy English major, and I have to put my sentences down and email over. But if you like, I could follow up later this afternoon and see if you have any questions about what I sent over. And they're fine. They'll often see that as like, okay, I get it. And so then as you have ideas, and ideally, you should do this at least quarterly. Some people that I know do it like every other month. Pitch them ideas, look at what is getting media attention in your industry and other markets. If you go to a trade show, write down everybody that you meet and where they're located, especially if they're a local business. And then you
Mhm.
can just create Google alerts. And if you see them get picked up on something, you can pitch something similar. Don't say, hey, in the Cleveland, Ohio market, this company got picked up and a story was written about them. Do the same with me. That won't work. But what you could do is say, hey, look at that story and say, hey, I've noticed a big trend among people talking about going green and being environmentally sound. And as a local dry cleaner, I would love to share with you all the things that we have done to ensure that we are carbon neutral and that we are not releasing chemicals that are bad for the environment. Instead, we are doing state-of-the-art stuff so that the products, the items after they're cleaned come back to you with no residues, no chemicals, and they can't because we don't use any bad chemicals. Everything we use is, and you just talk about it and talk it up. And
Mhm.
so that's all you have to do. Look if there's a local business magazine or business newspaper. Ideally, you might have both if you're in a good metropolitan area like Baltimore. We're lucky enough to have a magazine as well as a business newspaper that's separate from the regular newspaper.
Mhm.
Find out who covers your industry, get their email address, and do the same thing. It also works with TV and radio. So if you see occasionally a radio program that spotlights businesses, reach out and ask who the producer or booker of that segment is and tell them I'm a local business and I have ideas that I'd like to pitch to them on a regular basis and just do that. And so this is stuff that takes a little bit of time. And often you go 6 to 9 months with nothing happening. That's not unusual. But what you'll find is as you do this, they will often, the first story will often be them contacting you. They'll be
Mhm.
like, hey, I've seen you contact me a few times over the past year. I wasn't able to use anything, but now I'm working on a story about, batteries and electric cars. And I noticed that you said that you're working on your facilities with state-of-the-art batteries. And I was wondering, are there any parallels? And you could go, that's when you put your creative cap on and you
Mhm.
try to make whatever they're pitching to you apply to you and say, hey, I may not be able to talk about exactly electric car batteries, but I do feel like there are a lot of parallels, and this is what we're doing with solar and batteries on the ground with our facilities. And not only are the batteries getting better and they're being made with better materials,
Mhm.
you just sort of fall into what they're looking for, and also say, I'd also love to spend a few minutes putting together an amazing quote and email that over to you. And so a journalist loves a quote more than anything because if you have an amazing quote, it makes their article look so much better. And a lot of times journalists are stuck with these safe quotes that are in press releases that don't say things that are really powerful or succinct. So make sure you deliver an amazing quote to them. And that guarantees that you'll be in that article because they're not going to cut you and they have to stay who you are and what your business is about. So it's a great way to ensure that you are in there and that you won't get cut by even their boss's red pen. And so definitely spend a little time on that quote because it really makes a huge difference.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm definitely taking notes here because I'm in the process of doing what you're talking about. So I'm learning and growing with you right this minute, Mickey. So thank you so much for this information. And if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
So my website's eReleases.com, and you can chat, email, or call. You'll only speak to an editor. We have no salespeople. Yeah, and they're very helpful. I also have a free masterclass where I go through strategic types of press releases. The harsh reality is that 97% of the press releases that are out there do not generate earned media. And that shouldn't discourage you from PR, but it should make you be more strategic and make sure that you're following the lessons of the 3% of releases that do get picked up because there's a lot of patterns there. And that free masterclass is at ereleases.com. YouTube.com/plan, PLAN, and it's less than an hour long video, and it allows you to do an audit of strategies that you can utilize to build a PR campaign of 6 to 8 releases for your business, and that they are the types of releases that will generate earned media. And that's what we call it when you get the articles written about you and journalists just saying wonderful things about your company.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait to partake in that. So thank you for sharing. Wow. So if you're doing online, both online and offline, how can you close more sales with your PR? How does that help you?
So when you get earned media, the first thing you'll notice is that the traffic that you get from that is high converting. And if there are leads coming in, you'll find that they will convert higher than your average lead, and they'll convert faster because when people see an article about you, it is a signal of trust. It is a huge credibility boost. They see you recognized in your industry as someone who's doing something really great, and they want to work with you. And the same thing happens with your existing leads and customers. You take that article and you share it with your customers. What does that do? It gets them to feel like, wow, I'm with the right company. And it's going to reduce your churn rate. So if you lose 12% of people a year, you're going to lose less when you put these articles in front of them and they read about you because they feel more comfortable that they are working with the right company, and that, hey, we don't need to shop around this year. We're great right where we are. With your leads, you're going to find that, you know, maybe you only convert 20% of your leads, and you put these articles in front of your lead pipeline and show them you, and they read this, they're going to get that same signal of trust, that rapport, that social proof of a journalist writing about you, and you're going to convert more. Maybe you'll convert 30% of your leads as a result of that. So that works really well. I had a client in the carpet industry that was looking for media pickup, and we were finally able to get it. But unfortunately, most of the media pickup was in trade publications, and these are other carpet companies who read the trade publications, not their customers. And so I didn't wasn't sure that that was going to help them, but they said, no, this is great. And at the end of the year, they had a book of all their press clippings printed out, and it was like about, I think, over 20, maybe even as many as 30 clippings. It did have their local newspaper. It did have New Jersey Magazine, which is where they were based, and it was a high-end consumer magazine. All the rest were trade publications. And so when they go give someone a quote, they say, hey, we may not come in the cheapest, but we're recognized throughout the nation. Here
Mhm.
we are in Floor Covering Weekly. Here we are in, Flooring Today, and all of these places. And they said that just by introducing that brag book to the conversation, when they give people a quote, they started converting 17% more
Wow.
of these sales content. So it's almost one out of every five sales that they were previously losing that they're now getting. And when you're giving people quotes for $4,000, $9,000 jobs, these are substantial wins when you're converting 20%, almost 20% more.
Yes, absolutely. So I see a lot of ads for like get where people have seen by ABC, NBC, CNN, and it's a lot of companies out there promoting that they can get you into these places. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the as seen on, it does help because it gives you a little bit of credibility, but the best credibility is to actually have the articles there.
Okay.
And when most of those are syndication, and that's your press release replicated on a bunch of websites, that's not earned media. Earned media is when a journalist writes about you. They've written the article using
Okay.
your press release. So if it's the type of thing that might give you a little bit of a bump, but it's not a huge bump. There's also people who pay to get you into Forbes, but you're not in Forbes. You're not in the magazine. You're online on a section of their website that used to be dedicated to bloggers, and now it's dedicated to these contributions. And
Hmm.
often when you do paid placement, um, if you go to the website and do a search, you may not even find your article come up because it's usually a relegated section of their website. It's usually not part of their main website. So
Wow.
I tell people, rather than spend $1,500 or $2,000 to get an article on Forbes, spend $400 or $500 on a press release and do strategic press releases that have a much higher rate of pickup. And that will move the needle. I think at this point, at least with my community of other people who are in marketing, when they see someone on LinkedIn sharing their Forbes article, everybody's eyes roll and we just know it's paid and it doesn't mean anything. And so I think that consumers probably aren't that jaded yet, but they're
Mm-hmm.
getting there because people are recognizing that certain places are known for paid placement. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that earned media is the way to go. It's more natural. It definitely gives you, when someone gets an article in Forbes, you're not getting any Forbes viewers coming to you and becoming customers because it's not part of their natural publication that they
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of traffic on. It's a segmented, relegated thing. It gets very few eyeballs on it naturally. Most of the eyeballs from those articles are you sending it to places. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that it's better to get earned media and get some of that natural flow of real traffic. When my people get picked up by Forbes, it looks different because it's in the magazine, it's in print. In addition, it's on their website and it's on their high trafficked section of their website. And that is a game changer. I can't guarantee that I'm going to get you in Forbes. I can't guarantee you any place. And anybody that does, it's probably paid placement and it's probably not going to work. So, uh, but I do think that a lot of people do turn to this kind of paid placement and these as seen on syndication plays because they've seen how hard it is to get real earned media and how difficult it is. And I'm sitting there saying, "Hey, pay attention over here. I've got the formulas for you to get picked up." And I feel like I'm making it very easy for people to use press releases to get picked up. And if you do a PR campaign of 6 to 8 press releases, and that's how you should always judge PR is to do a PR campaign, just like you wouldn't judge Google by getting 30 clicks on an ad and say, "Whoops, we got no customers. Let's cut off the Google ads." You want to test and try different things. And so with the PR campaign of 6 to 8 releases, if you follow my masterclass of strategic types of releases, you will have some that will fail, but nothing will happen. But of those 6 to 8 press releases, probably 2 or 3 of them are going to generate real earned media for you. And one of them is a type of press release that never fails. It always generates, usually on average, 8 to 14 articles of earned media every time someone follows that. And that's the survey. Do an industry survey. And it sounds like a big ask, but it doesn't have to be. It's like use SurveyMonkey to create it. I like 4 questions per page. And so you ask either 8 or 12 or 16 questions. You take that link and you go and approach a small or independent trade association. Stay away from the large ones. They don't need you and they're not going to work with you. But the small and independent ones that you probably don't even know exist are out there. And because you don't know they exist, no one else does, they will gladly send that to their members. And you just approach it as saying, "Hey, I'm looking for at least 100 responses to the survey. Could you send this to your members in exchange? I'll mention you in a press release going over PR Newswire in the near future." And, about 2/3 of them will say yes right off the bat. All of our releases at eReleases go out through PR Newswire and they go out nationally. Newswire charges $1,600 for a 600-word press release to go out nationally. Through us, it's like maybe a third of the price. So it's a big savings to go through us. The caveat is we can only work with small businesses and entrepreneurs or startups. If you're publicly traded or a big fat cat company of $250 million a year, I'm going to send you directly to PR Newswire. But for everybody else, it's a really great way to save. And PR is one of those things that works very well, and you do not have to be a big company for it to work. Actually, if you're a small company, you're going to get PR easier and better than a large company because journalists don't get a lot of shares on their articles, which is how they measure a lot of their success
Hmm.
uh, by covering Google and Microsoft. But if they cover and spotlight a new tool or resource no one knows about, which is often from small businesses and mom and
Hmm.
pops and people who are doing a side hustle, part-time business or something like that, trying to get it off the ground, they will gladly put the spotlight on you. And so take
Hmm.
advantage of that and don't feel that your small is going to be a detractor. It will not. Journalists love small businesses.
Wow. I am so glad we met, Mickey. I really am. You know what? It's so funny how you think I've been thinking about it. I've been looking at those CNN, NBCs, and all of those, and I wasn't sure how it worked. So I've been studying it, and you just demystified the whole thing. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And I can't wait to attend your webinar. Is it live or is it recorded?
It is recorded, and
Okay.
that makes it real easy. I also have some accompanying materials with it, but the video itself is less than an hour, and it's easy to digest. And I had it was an 8 hour course, and I redid it because I know that people don't have the time or energy to put in 8 hours. So I made it just the heart of it, and there's not a lot of fluff, but it really is actionable stuff and it's the kind of things that make a difference, especially when you're trying to build a PR campaign.
Yes, because that's definitely on my to-do list is a PR and campaign. And one of the things, so what should be included in your PR? Would
I
I?
think I think that you want to have the answer, the who, what, when, where, how, and why, and you're going to construct it like an inverted pyramid with the most important stuff at the top. So the
Mhm.
headline is going to be a really big hook that is also recognizable. You're not writing for the consumer, you're writing for a busy journalist. So don't
Okay.
have it with puns, but have it like like they can easily see this is relevant for me and the industry that I cover. You're not going to have jokes or anything like that in it. Your opening paragraph and your opening sentence are going to be the most valuable. So you're going to make sure that you are getting the information across and you're including the building blocks for a story because journalists love a story arc. So make sure you're feeding that.
Oh, okay. Okay. And again, how do people connect with you?
Again, the website is eReleases.com. All my social media is on the lower right of my website. It's my direct LinkedIn. That's a great place to reach me personally. But feel free to reach out with my staff. They're only editors. And again, chat, email, phone. And if you have an idea or you're thinking about doing something, feel free to reach out and just ask my staff to review your press release. Whether you're working with us yet or not, we will take a look. Just give us a couple business days to get back to you with any ideas or improvements that we might have.
Oh, well, that is good to know. Wow. I'm so happy we met. I can't say that enough because that's what I'm working on right now.
Excellent.
And how, wow, this is like, God is so good. He always bring you what you need right when you need it. So thank you so much, Mickey, for taking time and explaining everything. So, I mean, you make it so easy. You made it, you're like, okay, most people who are sitting down to try to do a press release, it's like a big thing. They look at like a big mountain. You made it so easy, so straight to the point. I love it. So
Thank you.
thank you so much. And I'm definitely looking forward to having more conversations with you because every business out there is trying to do this and they don't know how. Or they're paying tons of money and getting sent to the wrong place.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share this important information because I know my audience is going to definitely eat this up.
Excellent.